Internet. I'm HamsterBomb.
And I'm Zach.
And this is HITBOX, the gaming podcast where we talk about whatever we feel like talking about in the video game industry. And we've been doing some tier lists lately, and you all knew it was just a matter of time until eventually I made Zach sit down and talk about Metroid. So
You act like I didn't want to do this.
you like Metroid too. It's not just me being a crazy person, right?
Right.
You've actually played, like, what percentage of the Metroid games have you played? Just to give us a ballpark here.
Officially, probably about maybe 60 to 70% of them.
It's good enough that you could chime in on most of this tier list here anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we are looking at Tier Maker right now, if you're watching us, and we're going to be going through each of the games. I'm going to try and go in release order like we normally do. Heads up, I am going to be skipping AM2R. We just don't consider that an official Metroid game. It's just a game that a person called Metroid and, made to look like a Metroid game.
I still think
not.
it's good.
Sure. That's a whole other discussion of, like, getting into fan games that are trying to be an official game. That's a whole other thing. Let's not go there. We're just going to talk about actual Metroid games today. So, for the starting point, we have the very original Metroid title on the NES, which we actually got to discuss a bit in HITBOX. So, honestly, if you've seen my review of this one, because actually, now that I think of it, I've reviewed a lot of these.
Yes, you have, actually.
It's not like Metal Gear where I could say, I've reviewed every single one of these. But I'll get there with Metroid eventually. But this first one I'm very conflicted with because part of me says this game didn't age very well. It's kind of aggravating to play by today's standards. But if you rank it based on how NES games were in terms of like what they can do for their design, what they could do for just experimentation, this is one of the best NES games. It's one of the most ambitious ones, and just with a few updates, and some people have actually made mods to this game to make it more playable, and it's phenomenal. But still, just ranking it among Metroid games and how conflicted I am, I feel comfortable throwing this in a B, right down the middle.
I see.
And I'm sure you're going to disagree with that because...
Yeah? What made you think that?
Well, just because, and like we've said with earlier tier lists, I rank older games a little higher because you gotta understand nothing existed before this one, and it's not like, say, for example, Super Metroid couldn't have happened were it not for the innovations of this game. Super Metroid is just using this as a starting point. There is no starting point for this game, and if you go from basically what NES games were at the time, or really just arcade, because we've just started the home console. This is crazy how much they've thought up and how it still functions conceptually, which is, you would think, like, well, if I let the player go in any direction, up, down, left, and right, and be left to their own devices to figure out how to progress and how to beat the game, no one's ever going to play this game. It's never going to work, but it does, and it works. I think it works really well. I rate it rather highly, personally. Yeah. And going back, and the more you play it and the more you learn it, you do get better and faster at it, like most Metroid games. So. Yeah. I'm assuming you are not a big fan of this one.
Not of this one, no. My first experience with it was when I had just beat Metroid Zero Mission and this one unlocked.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
that's the worst.
Yeah.
What's funny is this is actually my first Metroid game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I rather appreciate all the others for what they do to grow from this point, and it was only up from here.
Yeah.
You had an opposite experience where you played basically the fixed up version and then went backwards and just felt like you were playing jank, I bet.
It was definitely a step back. I ranked it as a C. Because as the baseline, it's, again, like you said, it's not a terrible game. It functions.
Yeah.
And there's just like a lot of weird 80s, like you said, jank that really brings it down for me. And again, like you said too, going from Zero Mission, which it's like, it's up here and then back down, it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Without making, because I can make an entire episode, and I probably will eventually, just on Zero Mission. Because I am very conflicted with that game.
Really?
I'll try and briefly discuss it when we get to that point.
Okay.
But for the sake of the Zero Mission discussion, think we should still put Metroid NES in B. Just because Metroid games generally are really good. Like we say with most of the tier lists. We're talking about good series.
And I haven't played every single one of these, so who knows? Maybe some of them are way worse.
And
that's
that's mostly why there's a couple that really deserve to be in a rank of their own.
Okay.
So I think when we get farther through this, if it comes up once again that we decide, hey, how about we compromise and move this down like we normally do, then we will.
Yeah.
B is still middle of the road, 2 levels above this, 2 levels below. It's just a starting point.
That's fair.
So the next one, very weirdly, we jumped to the Game Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this happened for several series, actually. I think Kid Icarus, which is in the same vein as Metroid, that adventuring series, Zelda, did the same thing. Wasn't its direct sequel, but still. Yeah, Metroid 2 for the Game Boy. Did you play this one?
I never beat it, but I have played this one for a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, we're about the same, then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've seen the entire thing through. I've seen speedruns of it. It honestly plays miles better than the first one. Even though Samus is physically huge on screen, it's the Game Boy. But I mean, it still looks much more like Samus, all things considered. So, I still think it's a really good time. I really appreciate that you can have more beams, shots on screen at once.
Yeah.
Because before it felt like with 2, you could just... and missiles, I think, were only 1.
Yeah, missiles was only 1, and you can only have 3 beam shots on the screen with the original.
Yeah, so it plays... Like, the gameplay is a little better. However, the design of it and the map layout, it's very linear.
Yes.
And there's much less to find. It's the Game Boy, I get it, but at the same time, that's what makes a Metroid game for me. So I inevitably see this as, like, a slightly not quite as imaginative version of what the original was. So I kind of pull it down just slightly, and I put this in a C.
See, I did the opposite. This one was a B for me.
Really?
Yeah,
That's rather confusing of...
well, I'm a human.
Okay, yeah.
And I can be contradictory sometimes.
You can.
No, but, I don't know, it's just, for a Game Boy game, when you have such a really tiny screen, you know, you're working on, like, very limited battery life. We're working on, like, just double A's.
And still no map, and it's very easy to get lost in the original Metroid. However, I kind of think that was the idea. Because there was a lot of intentional corridors that were designed to look exactly like another corridor, like directly above or below it, but something different at the end of it, just to throw people off. Metroid hasn't been that mean since that original one, though, I mean... Zelda hasn't been as mean as its original games either.
No.
Neither is Mario. So, I mean, that's just NES world, but...
And I guess, too, where this game, for me at least, in terms of the overall, story, if we want to really worry about it, it's very pivotal.
Yeah. I mean, we also have Samus Returns coming up later to discuss, so I'm gonna try and lean back on that as much, because we have 2 different games that we could be giving the same credit to. Just for this one's sake of, like, as a Metroid game, you're just kind of fighting against the Metroid formula a little bit, where you go into a new area, you basically can look around, you might find a missile expansion and maybe health. There's only like 4 or 5 in the whole game, energy tanks.
Right.
And then you're really just stockpiling missiles so that you can just pump them into the Metroids that you run into, and eventually the Queen, who really is just like a missile check. Like, how many did you find? It's hardly even a fight. You're really just like pumping missiles into the thing. I still just even find the original Mother Brain fight in the NES Metroid to be more interesting than that.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I still... Yeah, and the fact that the other fights too. I just find... Yeah, I can't see them even on the same tier. I just see Metroid 1 as... Yeah, just... Here, how about this? The innovations that I think made Metroid NES so good, Metroid 2 lacks, and though it has slightly better gameplay, I don't think that makes up for how much it's lacking. That our next game is going to dive into and totally understand. Okay. So... No, I can...
We'll do C for right now.
Yeah, to try and... I'm also trying to, once again, make like more of a balanced list. I'm not trying to like move your scores or anything. Yeah. But as we make these, towards the end of it, I want to make sure that we don't have like, 6 games are an S and there's like 2 an A, no B for some reason, and then like, 1 C and 1 D. Obviously, we want to try and keep everything as organized as possible. Yeah. Once again, this could be another one that we move. It's kind of weird that we have them backwards than what you think, but...
Yeah.
But still, I'm sure when we get to Dragon Quest or something, then my list is going to be completely meaningless. Though I have been messing around with a good amount of those lately.
That's good.
So moving on from here, I believe we are jumping to the Super Nintendo.
Yes, sir. Super
And
Metroid.
I don't think we need to have any bit of a argument or a discourse about this. This is an S tier game.
Yes, it is.
This is one of the greatest video games ever made.
Yes, it is.
I honestly wouldn't even want to see even Mercury Steam remake this game because there's no need. I think it
agree. Yeah.
If anything, Wall Kick could be a little easier to perform.
Space Jump, maybe.
Space Jump could have like a better window, like in Dread. Don't touch the rest of it.
No.
Don't touch. It's that good. So I have an entire review on Super Metroid. If you want to hear why it is that great, go watch that instead, because we need to try and keep a move on. Because honestly, there's not even anything I could think of why this would be A.
No.
Yeah, it's simply superb, even just in terms of the entire library of the Super Nintendo. It is top tier.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. So, from this point, there was actually a big hiatus in Metroid.
Oh, yeah.
And the next game, came out at the same time, and that would be Metroid Prime and Metroid Fusion.
Yep.
So, let's just try and stick in the 2D for now. How about we just do Fusion first?
Sounds
which,
good.
there it is down there.
Ah.
So, kind of in the same vein of how I felt about Metroid 2. In the story, once again, like, I feel like this... I'm very conflicted about Fusion, if you saw my video on it.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate that it's kind of another Super Metroid. And I say kind of because it has a very crucial design hindrance that I think pulls almost the whole game down with it, and that is the game constantly telling you where to go and forcing you into locked rooms where you have to listen through long dialogue on the GBA, which it's nothing like the Switch where, you know, you're talking to Adam and you can literally just, hey, boom, run out of the room. You don't have to do any, you have to like go through the dialogue every single time. You go through an elevator, Samus has to monologue, and unfortunately it is clearly written by the same guy who will later write Other M, and you can tell that it's not the best, and it's very wordy. And, however, it's still it's still a fun game.
Yeah.
So I don't want to pull it down that much, because like I said, I'm comparing it to Super. It's like its starting point is Super, and then it's just faults on top of that. So it's a question of how much do I fault it?
Yeah.
What do you think?
See, personally, I really enjoyed this game. This was my first Metroid game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like I had no idea what a Metroid was. All I saw was a cool person with a gun arm,
Yeah.
and a zombie, and an evil frog.
Yeah,
I'm like,
zombies in this game.
yeah, I'm like, what is this nonsense? And so,
Mhm.
you know, this is around the time I first got my Game Boy Advance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, oh, can I have this? Parents look at it. Yeah, sure, whatever. Here you go. And then,
Weirdly, I had a Game Boy Advance. It was one of my first consoles. Well, I started with a Game Boy Color. Game Boy Advance was the next one, and I never even knew this game existed. And I didn't get to play these until far later. So that's a shame.
but as a kid, you know, I had no idea what I was getting into.
Mhm.
So I really appreciate the fact that it is almost not really maybe like a very new friendly or very beginner friendly Metroid game. But for me, it was the perfect entry point because, yeah, it tells you where to go, but it doesn't always tell you how to do that.
Right, that's the thing, because sometimes it'll actually tell you to go to, like, a lot of times it'll tell you to go to a quadrant on your map you have no idea how to approach.
Right.
And figuring out your approach is the game, instead of figuring out, okay,
Where,
I
yeah.
just got the wave beam, where do I use this? Oh, I've seen a wave beam door not too far from here, let me do that. To me, that's the most important part of Metroid. But,
Yeah,
you know,
I can get. Well, it's different things for different people.
yeah, and this is more of like a sci-fi horror adventure,
Right.
where the Metroid mechanics are there, but they're taking a backseat.
Yeah, basically. And it's like, and another one of the things that I really loved about this, and which get built upon later, is the SAX. Those scripted
Yeah.
events when you actually have to confront it, and you're basically told, no, run, get out. It's like, as a kid, I'm like, oh, how scary can this be? Oh no, the music.
Yeah. But the only thing, like, when you're on replay, realize is not very scary about the SAX is, like you said, it's all scripted.
Yeah.
And that's what later they will realize to their fullest potential.
And that poor AI is not that smart.
No.
Which is a shame.
The SAX is not very intelligent.
But that's why on later playthroughs you can just clown
But
on
still,
it.
if it hits you, like, 2 or 3 times, you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's got an ice beam.
Yeah.
And the story is still really fun. Like, just on paper, the short end of it, what actually happens is really cool and fun and exciting. However, its delivery I have serious problems with. So I'm personally brought down with this. I put it in a B.
I had this as an A.
I'm not surprised. I probably could have guessed your entire list.
Shut up.
I'm not sure. You know, we don't have anything in A so far. If you want, I could compromise this time and give it to A.
I mean, for right now, and if something else comes up that, which it's going to come up probably.
Sure,
we can move it around later.
We probably will, because I have a couple games that I put in A that I think are just far superior to this, but
that's fair.
for now, we will plop it in there.
Yep.
Next, like we said, this came out alongside Metroid Prime. Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
once again, one of the best video games ever made. This is basically Super Metroid in 3D.
Yeah.
Fully realized. You have maps that are overlaying on top of each other. It never feels confusing. The map is fluid and cohesive, works in 3D. It's like just as innovative as Super was from the original, jumping into 3D. It's like just that big of a creative leap.
Those crazy Texans did it.
Yes, them crazy Texans did it, and the image here is not actually from the original game, but regardless.
Yeah.
This is an S-tier game. Goes right alongside Super Metroid, in my opinion. Do you not think so?
I had it as an A.
Really?
Yeah.
How?
I love this. I love this game.
How?
Okay.
Here, I'll drop it there. You tell me why I'm wrong.
Because I think
Are you that sour about the artifact hunt?
That's a part of it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, look, I have everything I need to go and fight Ridley and fight the Metroid Prime. I do not need to worry about going all around and getting all those artifacts, which is a.
It's not about fighting Ridley. It's about unlocking what the Chozo locked away below the planet.
Yeah, the Metroid Prime. I want to kill it.
Exactly.
And I don't need those artifacts to go down there and do it. You didn't need to go through Super Metroid and find 20 MacGuffins or whatever to go and kill her.
You know what? If you're gonna update Super Metroid, I might want that. Because then I get to play the game longer.
No, but that just blocked my progress. And that's the thing that I hated the most.
Maybe it was how you played it, because
maybe
if you play it where you're only going in a certain directive and you're not like exploring all the possible routes you can do at all times, you're gonna get to the end of the game and realize you need to find all these artifacts and not have any. Maybe you have one.
Yeah, but you can't get all of them. You can't get all of them.
No, you can't have all of them before the end. You still have to backtrack for like at least 3, but they tell you basically where they're at. They give you hints and the biomes. It's not that tough.
I still think it should have been more of an optional thing to get a better ending.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just saying, just from its jump to the 3rd dimension, the soundtrack, the graphics, this is the best looking GameCube game, in my opinion. I think this is the best sounding GameCube game. I think the implementation of you're trying to turn, if all you have is 2D Metroid, how do you even figure out how to turn that into 3D? And I think they did a phenomenal job. They probably added the artifacts just because they got to the end and realized people can beat this game in like a couple hours and they're going to be really mad. We'll have to like expand it somehow. And I think it's a good idea of how to keep people exploring in the world and get them to utilize your stronger abilities. Because the whole point of Metroid is if you're not going back to your earlier areas with better stuff, you kind of designed it poorly.
Here's the thing. I'm not saying this game is terrible, not by a long shot. It is a phenomenal game. Mm-hmm. It's just that bit that just holds it back for me. You know?
I can't. Okay, here. I will put it in A if Fusion goes to B, because those are not in the same category at all.
I like them both for different reasons about the same.
No.
Fine, go ahead.
One of them I gave a perfect score, and the other I was like, ugh.
One of these things is not like the other.
No, there, I'll do that at least for
Okay.
you. The next, I believe it was either Prime 2 or Zero Mission. I'm not sure what actually came out next.
I
So
don't rightly remember. We can go to Zero Mission.
yeah, let's do Zero Mission.
Yeah.
So
This is a good game.
yeah,
Okay.
it's a good game. It's okay. Here, hold on. You're remaking the original Metroid from NES.
Yes.
Gameplay-wise, you did an outstanding job, especially with adding that ending bit. Great, the stealth thing, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Except I really don't like how the final boss was kind of really underwhelming and a little lame, but whatever. That aside. So, the music, great.
Yep.
I really love it. The graphics, I think it does a great job for the GBA, especially with the little cutscenes and stuff you get. It's like telling the story without saying anything.
Very comic booky.
Yeah, it's great. It is. The problem I have with this is the core design that they completely sabotaged from what the original was, and that is open exploration. You can do it, but you're basically sequence breaking in the game. There's a lot of sequence breaking you can do, and it's in against like an obviously guided hand-holdy path. You have to fight like morph ball bomb jump in ridiculous ways to figure out how to escape your path and try and get stuff early. And the designers knew that players were going to do that. However, I just really find it to be to the point where it's almost egregious how hand-holdy this game is. To where you can't pass until you get into a morph ball and sit into this little Chozo statue, and it points exactly on the map. It says, go to this spot. And then you go to that spot, and you get another upgrade. And then it tells you another spot you have to go to. It's like the game's telling you how to beat it. And the whole fun of Metroid is not knowing where you're supposed to be going, especially with the original one. I feel like that's what made it so good, is it felt like you're like, oh, I just found a red door, I can't open it. And then you explore some more, you find missiles. You go, oh, this will probably open that door. You go back and it does. It's never the game outright telling you, okay, you found the Varia suit, now you can withstand the high temperatures down in Norfair. I don't know. It feels like they got everything right, except the design holds it back so much for me. It's like, do you realize what made Metroid good? I don't know, that sounds kind of extreme, but when you're going to remake a game, in my opinion, you need to try and work to make the original obsolete.
Yeah.
And that's a good remake, in my opinion. And Zero Mission is a different game, which is not making it obsolete. In that sense, it's a failure of a remake, but it's a good game in the same line as I'd say Fusion is, because Fusion is also very hand-holding, taking you around, but at least Fusion was unique. And at least Fusion had a story to tell, but I still, where did I throw this guy? I still put it in a B.
Where did I throw it? Guess where I threw it. It's an A.
No, God, no.
Again.
No. No, I would never agree to that.
It sounds like the way you feel about those Chozo statues in this one almost sounds like how I feel about those Chozo artifacts in Prime, almost.
Well, that's... we're talking about totally different mechanics. The Chozo artifact is there to extend your gameplay time and give you more stuff to go look for and figure out how to discover, as opposed to the Chozo statues outright telling you how to play your game and where to go and what to do. And that, I feel like, detracts from what Metroid is, as opposed to go seek for a thing I'm not going to directly tell you where it is, but I'm going to give you an idea, is not.
Would you at least, let's see, I would say almost that the game maybe is a bit better on replays, to be honest with you. Where you can avoid all that sort of stuff. Usually I have a lot more
So then you're
fun.
saying a game's better when it's not being played the way it was intended?
A little bit. Because I loved being
That
able
is
to go
not a
through-
good trait of game design. I find
Probably.
at the very best, this game is on par with the original NES.
Ouch.
That's why I want to put it in a B. At best, it's on par with it. Because it needed to outpace the original, and I don't think it does. The design concepts of the original are so much better than Zero Mission Zero Mission is a hand-holdy run directly through exactly what they want you to do. Though it's got better sequences, like there's other bosses that they got to add. Like say you run through a segment and the room kind of rumbles, but nothing happens.
Yeah.
And then you go back through that room later, it rumbles and a giant centipede monster comes out.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, the NES obviously couldn't do stuff like that, so it's cool that they added that stuff, and that's what I'm trying to get you to forget about that. It's all, Metroid is about how your map integrates and you're letting somebody explore and discover stuff on their own and figure out how they're going to carve their own path out of the world. In Zero Mission, you have a set path and you know exactly what you're going to do. And that,
for time's sake, I don't agree with you at all, but we can put it in B.
I'll eventually, like I said, I'm going to eventually make a review on this, and I said I could make an entire podcast just talking about this design problem. And at best, I cannot, I mean, actually seeing it next to Fusion makes a lot of sense to me. Just personally, because they seem like the same game with a different coat of paint.
But see, that's why I think I liked both, because again, those were some of the first few Metroid games I played.
Yeah,
and
in B. I like all the games in B.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the games in B. I like Metroid games. Just because something's in B doesn't mean it's bad. B just means
bad.
it's in the middle of the road.
That's fair.
So next one, Prime 2. You know what? I actually just finished the script for the Playing With Myself episode for this guy coming up soon.
Oh,
winky,
spoilers.
winky, spoily, spoily. And it's no Metroid Prime, but I think it's still very good. It's just slightly below it. Just slightly. Definitely better than Metroid 1, Fusion, and Zero Mission, by the way. Just saying how messed up our tier list is. So I should probably mention, like, Metroid Prime 2 is effectively Metroid Prime again, except the map is weirdly like cylindrical and you're always kind of like stumbling into other areas.
Yeah, it's that hub and spoke system.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you have a light world, dark world of that, so getting lost is extremely easy in this. I probably get lost in this more than any other Metroid game, even the original one. And, well, I mean, the original one, I'm going to look at a map as I'm playing, so...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, from its original design, sure, you're going to get lost more in the original one, but... no, I get so... Even with the really, really helpful maps you have in Prime 2, there's, like, so many one-way doors, traps you go through... Oh my gosh, I get so lost, and the environments all kind of look the same.
Yeah.
Even light and dark, sometimes I'm so confused of where I'm at, or where I saw some door I know I gotta get to, but I have no idea where it was.
It feels like it tries to do a Link to the Past, but it's not quite as elegant.
Yeah, Link to the Past, you clearly remember where everything was. Maybe that was because it was two-dimensional, and it was a lot easier to process. But another big thing about this is it added ammo to your beams, which actively discouraged you from using them.
Yep.
I think what Prime did was brilliant, where all of your beams are always important. Even late game, you're still fighting the Prime itself with all four.
Yeah,
You're fighting all the space pirates going into the phase-on mines with all four, if you have all four at that point. You might not have the flamethrower at that point, or the plasma.
Yeah.
But, if you have flamethrower, then you're really going to destroy them.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that is fun. Oh my god, I love that game so much. So, I put this in an A, just gently below Metroid Prime, because there's still a lot that I love about this game, but there's still some issues, and I'll get to it when you see my full review coming soon. But so Zach's now going to convince us why it belongs in B, and we should have the most ridiculous looking tier list ever. Carry on, sir.
Wow, it's like you know me or something. Are you peeking at my list?
No, I just know how wrong you are.
I know how wrong you are, but I'm not calling you out in front of everybody. Jeez.
This is my show. You're wrong. No, you are. I put you on this show on purpose to get your opinion, to tell me why. Because if I was allowed to just make my own list, then what good would someone shouting their single opinion be? If anything, these are much less interesting the more we agree, I think.
Yeah, no, like our Metal Gear game.
And it's also better that I think the best reasons are we're finding elements of games that like one of us really loved and the other one's kind of held back by other things that the other one doesn't seem to be remembering or like thinking about as much. And that's for both ways. I feel like that's happened where like you've loved something and something really bothered me, or like I really love something like, Prime and Fusion. It's happening a lot, so.
Because the unfortunate part about growing up is that I've not touched a lot of these games recently. Very recently.
I just recently played Prime 2 again.
Yeah.
With a randomizer. And that randomizer hated my guts.
That's right. Yeah, I was there with you for a good chunk of
Lord, that hated my guts. So, why is it a B, Zach?
For some of the reasons you actually talked about it, with the ammo count, that really just, I'm like, I'm just going to power beam everything. I don't want to worry about running out of ammo on top of getting lost all the time, like you said.
And you know what? To be hypocritical myself and say, with your own argument of zero mission upon replay, and if you know what you're doing in Prime 2, if you shoot the, you know those little ammo container things on the side, and if you're in the dark world, they're like little alien things. If you shoot them with the ammo that you want more of, you will get more of it. Or I think it's like the opposite, but either way, that's how you get ammo.
I might have just missed that on my old playthrough.
I didn't know that in my old playthrough either. So as soon as you figure that out, the whole game's ammo thing, it's more of like something you just gotta manage, and it's not that bad.
And I think one of the other things that kind of held it back for me was that this was a rather difficult game.
Yeah, that's another thing. I will say in my review, this is effectively a Metroid game designed for players who have mastered the first one. It's almost like NES sequel, where they only made games specifically to really challenge players who love the first one. Think of Mario: The Lost Levels.
Yeah.
Or, Castlevania, Zelda. They were all about, like, trying to really challenge and make, like, an even harder version that you could play with longer.
And that's not to say that Metroid games themselves aren't inherently difficult on some level.
Yeah, they definitely are.
But this one just felt like it kind of hated you in some ways.
Yeah.
Especially when you go to the Dark World and you realize you don't have the Dark Suit to mitigate some of that damage you take yet.
Oh my god, or if your randomizer doesn't want to give it to you.
Or your randomizer doesn't want to give it to you.
Oh my god.
Oh my god,
I was burning alive.
Yeah.
It's
for me, it's almost like that death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing, where it's like, it's still a good game and it's still Metroid Prime at its core, but the things it tried to do to differentiate itself from the original, I don't think worked as well as what, to make as good a game as what the original Prime was.
Okay. Honestly, just from the way we have our list right now, I wouldn't want to put it right next to Metroid Prime. So I agree with you there, and I think it does have some problems that hold it back, which are basically what is our B list so far.
Yeah.
Like, it would be a great game, and that's like the B. So for now, I'll say, let's put it in B, but also another stipulation, let's have a rule, no more in the B category from here on.
I think, that's the last one I have in mind.
Okay, we have too many in the B right now. So let's try and move on from here. So at this point, I'm also now seeing down there we have Metroid Prime Pinball. We're not going to count.
I never played that.
I did. It's pinball. We don't need to put it on there. It's a fun pinball because it has Metroid themes. But
does Ridley at least go across the pinball table and you can hit him?
There's all sorts of crazy stuff you can do in it. It's fun, but still, we just need to move on.
Yes.
I think next was actually Metroid Prime Hunters, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, that was a DS game.
Did you play this?
No, I
tried
Did you play
the demo?
I tried the demo.
What do you think of the demo?
I don't remember enough because I didn't play it enough. It was like at a GameStop for like 15 minutes.
So oh wow. Okay, so here, let me tell you how much I played that demo. I have played and beaten Prime Hunters completely, and I have played the demo more. Huh. I really like the demo, and I'm not a huge fan of the main game. So I know that sounds really weird.
No, that just tells you something, I suppose.
Maybe. So the demo, which by the way, if you bought a first generation Nintendo DS, it was packaged with this demo of Prime Hunters.
Oh my god,
that's how people got this, and that's how I had one. And I actually have to go back and really think. I'm not sure whether that was the first Metroid I ever played, or if it was the NES, because I played both near the same time, so I'm not positive. But the demo had several modes you can go through, and there was one that was like a survival mode where you're in an enclosed space, and it effectively was like a first-person shooter. It had nothing to do with Metroid. And you just were trying to survive hordes of enemies, and eventually they just got so strong and powerful you will inevitably lose, and it's how long did you survive? It has nothing to do with Metroid!
Wasn't this game made with multiplayer in mind?
Yes.
Okay.
So was Prime 2. We kind of skipped over that.
Yeah.
But this was mostly the idea was they wanted to do a first-person shooting with the touchscreen.
Right.
And the controls were horrible. And the reason I kept playing it so much, one, was because it just came out with my DS and there was nothing else to play other than that, and I had Super Mario 64, the remade version, so I would go back and forth because this was really cool looking, it was interesting, and I really liked the world. And you couldn't actually play the game for like another 2.5 years. It took forever for this game to come out. Yeah,
wow.
So a lot of people didn't buy and play this, even though they played the demo. More people played the demo than the main game. So you get to the point where you're just like, okay, these controls are terrible. Fortunately, there's like 3 options for control schemes. So you switch it over and you play that one, you're like, this is worse. And then you switch it over to another one, and you're like, no, this is definitely not gonna fly. And then you go back to like one that jived with you, and you're like, okay, this was the least awful. And, can only play for so long because you have cramps. You're basically trying to play with, your fingers on a stylus and the other hand, whichever other hand, because that's the thing. I think there were 6 ways to play the game because it was right or left-handed version of each of the 3. It was a mess. And then you play the main campaign of the real game. It's kind of like Metroid Prime, kind of. You really just have like smaller quadrant planet areas to go through. If you think of like Prime 3, but even smaller, the graphics are obviously not great because it's running on original DS, which is really impressive though.
Yeah, for real.
But they don't look great. It doesn't play the smoothest. It's really hard to kind of see what's going on. And then you have to fight one-on-one. This is the player versus player mechanic, them trying to do it in one player. You have to fight the other bounty hunters. And they're just, every time you encounter one of those, it's frustrating. And it's supposed to be like a fun boss fight, but it sucks every time. So, and I'm not a fan of the final boss of this game either. I really had some problems with this one, just all around, lots of problems. However, it was still like I had enough of a good time that I don't want to put it at the bottom of the barrel, and I said it was a C.
From the sound of it, yeah, that sounds fair. Yeah.
And actually sitting it next to Metroid 2 kind of makes sense in my head. Both have like heinous enough mistakes that I just look at them and I'm like, ugh. But I'll still play it, because I have some fond memories of them.
That's fair.
Yeah, and that's saying a lot for a series. When I'm putting stuff in seed, I'm like, I still have fond memories of these.
Yeah.
So after this point, I think we are coming to Prime 3.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, because this person who made this tier list even put Prime 4 on here for some reason.
That's not even out yet, you silly Billy.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Whatever. So, Prime 3, did you play this one?
Yes, and this is another one of those ones I never did finish.
Oh, that's a shame.
Well, I have the collection on the Wii.
Oh, I
remember my Wii.
Your Wii committed hamakuri.
Yeah, basically.
So,
I think I got about to the second or... I think it was like the second of like those friendly bounty hunters at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
boss fights.
Yeah, I got to like the second dude, and then
that's a shame you couldn't go farther, because that's actually where I remember the game really getting good.
I didn't even rank it, to be honest, because I don't remember all that much.
I can appreciate that. It would be...
Yeah, that wouldn't be that fair.
I really love what the controls of the Wii did for this. This was one of the few games where the Wii controls were great. Yes. And they did a great number for making the game play really well. I think the multi-planet thing is a cool idea. You not only go to planets, you go to like space pirate colonies, you go to just an orb of phase. It's so cool of like how many, you feel like you're exploring more, even though in actuality you just have long, like instead of going to Metroid Prime's long elevator loading screen, you go to a gunship long loading screen. So, I mean, it's really just replacing one thing for another, but it makes you feel like you're exploring something grander. Yeah. And I do appreciate that. I originally put this in A, because once again I say it is just behind Metroid Prime. Because Metroid Prime to me is just like the golden child.
I can't fight you on this one.
Effectively super. Well, now I'm kind of conflicted because now I'm willingly putting it in A, which it's probably better than Prime 2.
From what I played, I do remember liking it a bit better than Prime 2 in some regards.
Yeah, so. Your beams do stack, which is okay, though I love what Prime did with it. It feels weird putting it next to Prime. I still think Prime is the superior game.
Well, for beam stacking, I mean, how else... how are you gonna not clunkily, change between them with just the Wiimote?
Yeah, you'd have to probably use like the D-pad.
Yeah.
But that might have been used for something else. I don't remember.
I think for
scans
visors?
or something. It might have been your visors. I'm not sure. That's Prime 3. I still think it's a great game. I would love to if we had a HD remaster of the trilogy for Switch.
Yeah.
That's the first one I'm gonna go back to, even though I adore Metroid Prime. Unless these remasters that are supposedly rumored even still today.
You use the gyro controls. These new ones.
Oh yeah,
that would
work
cool.
really well.
Yeah.
But depending on how good the remasters are, if we do really get them, I might jump into Prime first because I just adore Prime so much. I go back and forth on what's my favorite Metroid game. I did before another came out. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll keep moving on. So, oh god, and then there was another long wait of games, and I believe the next was actually Other M.
Other M.
Yeah. So
I've avoided this one. I've still avoided this one on your orders. Or on your advice, rather.
Well, if you go into it with the right mindset, you can indeed enjoy Metroid Other M and have a great time with it.
But
this is one of the worst stories ever told by human beings.
Oh, I could argue that's far worse, but go ahead.
You haven't gone through this. No, this is like actively sabotaging. It's this will be an enormous review when I finally get to it. I'm actually planning on this being my episode 100 because it's probably going to be an hour long. It's going to be huge. There's so much to talk about here. However, I do want to say I was super excited for this game when it was coming out. Mm-hmm. I pre-ordered it and I played it day one. And I was defending it even then. And I will still find ways to defend it today. Because there's a lot of cool stuff on paper that I'd be like, yeah, but this is your 2D and your 3D at the same time. You get to have a battle with Ridley, you get to have a battle with Nightmare, you get to have a battle with a Queen Metroid. You go through the list, and there's so much cool stuff in here.
Yeah.
But at the same time...
Which is really, because...
It's just so... And I'm not even going to get into the list of the problems with this game, because we'd be here for another 40 minutes, and I don't want to do that. Because
I was going to say, this is a Team Ninja game, right?
Yeah, it's actually Team Ninja. The people who invented boob jiggle physics were trusted with Samus Aran. Yes, that's a real thing that happened in our universe.
Yep.
This, in my opinion, is the one deserving of a D.
In comparison to the others.
Just comparison to Prime Hunters and Metroid 2.
Yeah.
Those are just better games. And Metroid Other M, I've actually played this, I think, 2.5 times. So I spent a lot of time in this, and one of those was 100% run as well. So I go back and forth. This is going to be the weirdest one. If ever there is a game where... No, I'm not going to go that far. I was going to say, if there's ever that game where Bomb will give something a 10 and Hamster gives it a 1, it's this. I wouldn't give it a polite 10 though. I don't think I ever liked it that much, but at best maybe a 7. But
like a pity 10 or something like that.
No, that sounds like I'm defending it. I'm trying to be fair even to how much I liked it even in its heyday.
Maybe a pity 7.
Yeah, pity 7 is probably what it is, and that game is garbage. It's garbage. I'm kind of glad it exists, but at the same time, it killed my favorite franchise for a decade, so I kind of have a bit of anger towards it, because the next game we got after this...
Oh, yeah.
...was, up till a couple weeks ago, the most disliked video on Nintendo's channel, which recently got dethroned by their announcement of how much the N64 Online expansion was going to cost.
Yep.
Metroid Federation Force. If you thought that they didn't understand what made Metroid great when they made Other M, you didn't understand the depths they could sink to. Federation Force is just disgusting.
I've never played it, so based on the reviews I read alone, so...
Well, here, I'm just gonna say one thing, and you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Dinosaur Planet.
Oh, no!
That's what happened to Metroid. So basically...
Oh, no.
This multiplayer DS game is being made. They don't think it's gonna do well. Slap an IP Metroid. We're not using on it. Metroid Prime. It's not even gonna have anything to do with Metroid Prime, but it says it right there. Metroid Prime. Federation Force. And it's this, oh god, this campy, chibi game where you need friends in order to play it. Like, it's downright unplayable single player. People can do it. You can play single player through the whole campaign, but it is painful. It's not good. Not good. Not even a Metroid game. I would argue that you probably shouldn't even put it on this list, but it's
still a Metroid game.
It is technically. It's in the same sense that like Metal Gear Peace Walker is a Metal Gear game. You know, it's got like the weird mission formats, and it's like regulating, like screwing the whole thing up. It's still the same. So I'm sorry, that's a D. So this was a horrible time to be a Metroid fan.
Yep.
It was painful.
The early 2000s was the best time for the longest time.
But there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and that light was Samus Returns. Finally, we were getting a new Metroid game. Not only that, it was a 2D Metroid game and a remake of the one that needed it the most. This game, I know you haven't played.
Nope.
It is so good. It's a huge shame, because, like, there's a handful of games on here that I would just say, like, these are easily some of the best Metroid games ever made. Like, I would, without a doubt, say Super is one of the best games ever made. I would also say Metroid Prime is one of the best games ever made. Samus Returns, I'd say, is barely below that, and the only reason it's there is because it's probably held back mostly by the 3DS.
Yeah,
the 3DS is very powerful. It's really good. The boss fight, everything that they did to spruce this game up is great. Some people argue that it's losing the cold and mysterious atmosphere from Metroid 2, the original, but that's really an artifact of the Game Boy. I don't know if you're attributing too much to that, but also, this was Samus's grand re-entry into the public eye, so you couldn't have like an empty, cold, dark, mysterious thing. That's really what the next game did so well and was aiming for. So, personally, I put this as an A because I found it at the same tier of Corruption and just below Prime, but I could see it alongside it. It's that good.
Okay.
So, just because we don't really have an option, I'm going to put it there. And we have one left that we're going to discuss, and it recently came out, though I have already gotten to review it. Zach, you did beat it, so
I have.
We can fully discuss Metroid Dread. We won't talk about spoilers, because it is still a new game.
Yep.
But I can still tell you without a doubt, this is one of the best Metroid games ever.
It's a very good game.
It is a very good game.
Yeah.
I put an S.
I figured. By process of elimination.
Mm-hmm. And why is it not, Zach?
I had it as an A.
Uh-huh. So basically you just wanted Super to have a tier all of its own and never let anything touch it?
I don't know if...
There's other games that are allowed to be as good as Super.
I know. It's just one of the big things that was holding me back because I'm like, recency bias, because I just beat this game so recently.
And at the same time, I would argue is nostalgia bias hurting your...
It could very well be. I don't know. Well, because I never really played Super Metroid all that much until NSO came out. Until I got it. So just a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I played it a lot. As you could imagine. I played the game a lot.
I know you did. I mean, I had it on emulator, but for some reason I just couldn't get into it on emulator. On Switch, it's like, oh, yeah,
the same thing happened to me. I never really got invested on emulator, but when I had it on the Wii Virtual Console, arguably also an emulator, I really dug it then. When NSO came out, of course, now I can step back a bit because I ran in the wrong room accidentally, so I can go a little faster by not going in that room or making a save state before boss fights. It was, game changer.
And also, too, I think I just bounced so hard off of Metroid Dread at first.
Mm-hmm. That was unfortunate. I
think that was more of a me thing, but that still kind of colors my impression a little bit.
I had a feeling that was going to happen, just because I know you had... you were going through a lot of stuff at the time, right when Metroid Dread came out and started the beginning of it, and you're probably just like not in the right mindset, and started over, and then loved it. So that's obviously just a personal impression side. So that's the bomb half of you. What's the Hamster got to say?
It's very good.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't really given it that much thought. I just knew that I really loved it. That ending was really, really well done.
But the whole thing's well done. So I've played it by the point of this recording 4 times all the way through. The one time with you guys, 100% normal. The next was 100% hard. Then I went to speedrun normal, did it under 4 hours.
Ooh.
And then speedrun hard. Actually, no, I think I did it 5 times. No, it was 4, because when I did it hard, I was going quickly. And I did it in under 8, so I got like 2 of the award things at the end. And then when I did it the normal, I got all 3. And then when I went to hard, I got all 3. Hard, by the way, my best time was like 3 hours flat. It was like 3 hours and a minute.
Yeah.
And I'm so mad that I missed that minute. If it was just 1 minute faster, it would have been 2:59. Come on, but oh well. Maybe someday I'll do it eventually.
Yeah.
But I just really love that this really truly feels like Super Metroid level quality of design, but on the Switch, where the controls are pristine, 60 frames per second. You can, like, once you get good at it, this game gets better and better.
Yeah.
And I highly encourage you to play it again and keep going, because once you know what you're doing and you go faster, oh, it gets so much fun. And there's so many ways to play it, like people, go for 0%, ignoring everything. I've considered.
Don't.
Yes!
I know you hate yourself, but come on now.
Well, the thing is, like, I remember the first time I played against the final boss, so I won't spoil, I almost did, and they were destroying me, and then on even my hard mode speedrun and my normal speedrun, they couldn't even touch me. Like, I don't even think I got hit. So, at that point, I'm like, I could probably do this with no upgrades. I see it in S alongside Super, and that takes a lot out of me, because I previously said Super Metroid is my favorite video game ever. And this game just came out. And I know there's obviously like a hype and excitement that you kind of want to wait for it to die down after a game has come out.
Yeah.
However, I still see this alongside Prime and Super as best Metroid games that we could ask for.
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's fine.
Okay. At least that kind of rounds this out a little bit better.
Because I can't really find any arguments against putting it in S. It's just all personal stuff. That's the only thing I've got.
Yeah, and I think you will find that those personal things will largely go away or be forgotten on subsequent playthroughs.
More than likely.
And you'll probably find a lot more to enjoy, because the first time I played through this, I thought it was really great. I really enjoyed it. And then I went through on hard, and all of a sudden, like, I liked it so much more. And I think that's the point where I wrote my review, and then I did my speed runs, and then I was like, oh my god, I just want to keep playing this over and over and over and over and over and over again, which is what I did with Super.
Yeah.
It was the same idea of like, okay, because it's like, it gives you a number at the end, and you're like, okay, I gotta do this now, I gotta do it better.
Numbers.
You're like, number, I'm gonna do it so much better.
Make number good.
And like, the gameplay is so good, it holds it up, that you want to keep doing that and learn like the perfect way to beat these bosses. And there's some really cool ways to like quickly take some down, and I got some to work, by the way. It gets so satisfying. But
that's fair.
So how you feel about our list here? I'm going to quickly rattle it off for those who are just listening to us. So in S, we have Super Metroid and Metroid Dread. In A, we have Metroid Prime, Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, and Metroid Samus Returns. In B, we have NES Metroid, Metroid Fusion, Metroid Zero Mission, and Prime 2 Echoes. In C, we have Metroid 2 Return of Samus, the Game Boy version, and Metroid Prime Hunters, and in D, Metroid Other M, and Metroid Federation Force.
Yep.
So, hopefully, Metroid Prime 4 is going to come out and wow us and find some reason that it needs to be in S.
I hope so. My main concern is that it's not the same Retro Studios that made the original trilogy.
I know, and it's been in development hell for quite a long time, which is also scaring me as well.
Yeah.
However, I have hope, because I think they're seeing, especially now, people really, really want Metroid, because Metroid Dread is selling really well. We're finally getting some numbers about that, so this is already the best-selling Metroid game, and it's like its first month, and the holiday hasn't even hit yet. This is gonna be big.
So real quick, I was gonna say, I think that sold just under 1 million hard copies in the United States alone.
It did, yeah. Like 850,000 or something like that, and that's just the United States, and it was just like its opening weeks. just the United States. That already, like, I believe triples what Prime did.
Yep.
Which is outrageous. So, and I called before this game came out saying, I bet Metroid Dread is going to outsell the entire Metroid series up to this point combined.
You called it?
And if that, and it hasn't happened yet, but if that happens, that would be insane. We'll have to see by the end of the holiday, but either way, we probably upset somebody with our tier list here. I feel like I've even upset myself.
No, I'm the one who's done the most.
Done the dirty?
Yeah.
You've done the dirty?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know what? At the very least, I would still say that D is definitely. I think D is exactly like verbatim what I had on mine, and same for C. It's just S. I moved Prime up, and I had let me see, Prime 2 was raised to A level.
Yeah. No,
and that might be just because I played it again and it's more fresh in my memory, and I've done a lot of research towards it in Metroid Prime. In my opinion, is like the best you could ever make a 3D Metroid game. That's why I put it there. So, there's mine. Anyway. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of HITBOX. If you enjoy the show, you can help us keep it alive by supporting us on Patreon with the links in the show notes in this video's description. For those of you on YouTube, remember to like the video and subscribe for more, and be sure to let us know what you thought of the show and what other topics you'd like to hear us cover in the future. And special thanks to all of our amazing Patreon members.
Booyah! See you.